something extraordinary here because it's Alan Streader leading down the back straight away in the 34 car. We're on the final lap. Car number 34 rounding a couple here in the final corner. And Alan Streader goes to the checkered flag. The New South Wales champion. Second goes to Ron Hutchinson. Third to Gary Pollitt. Fourth was Warren Wright. And fifth race in the title is Keith Smith in car number 16.
Thanks very much, Dave Booth. Ladies and gentlemen, I think it was a fitting climax to the Compact Speed Car Championship of New South Wales, because in the winner's circle tonight we have the three most consistent place getters all season long, and it's great to see them finish. The order, obviously, each would have liked to have had it reversed, that is with the exception of Alan Streader, but it was Alan's birthday last Saturday night. He didn't designate what age, but he is a man who has been at this circuit racing consistently since day one 18 years ago. And proof of the pudding, he's never been sharper. In 1985, he takes off the state championship. Would you put your hands together and congratulate a man who's been a great force in Australian Speedway? Alan Streader, congratulations.
So without any further ado, we call up the man of the moment, the Red Baron himself, Alan Streader. Well done, Sam. Hey?
I didn't fall over.
You just passed the first test.
Right, now don't ask me name or something.
This is the Alan L show.
Yeah.
We've got young Al and younger Al.
Who's the youngest, you reckon? Well, we won't go into that.
We won't go into that. Well, Al, we're going to get you up shortly where a few people want to say a few words and probably have a bit of fun. The object of the exercise tonight, as you well know from our fun and games that we have at the Compact Speed Car presentation night, the object of the exercise is to have a bit of fun.
Absolutely.
All right, so just before we move on to that, we've got a little presentation for you tonight that has been put together. We're going to be running some raffles later in the night, but this is for you.
There we go. Well, thank you for that. That's fantastic. We can fit that up somewhere on the wall.
I'm sure you will. It'll probably take pride of place. I like the likeness. I thought it was extremely good. I might add that this was done by a fellow by the name of Mick Joffe, who is probably Australia's leading caricature artist. It's an original. We'll hopefully appreciate its value, so you might get something out of it.
Well, it's a nice thing to have, though, isn't it? That's the main thing.
It is indeed. It is indeed. We're going to break and have something to eat. We're going to get you up and we're going to talk about a few interesting things, some good times, some not so good times, and we'll take it from there.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yeah, well, that look right. Serious. Am I ever serious, right? All right.
I guess this thing is truthfully out of your
Yeah, I made it.
You made it, yeah.
You're not getting mine. Oh, I've still got my half a roll.
It's gone. So that's what them like little caravans in there. All that needs You know what I think? The old one, just doing, you know, they 25 kilometres.
That look good.
Look, they recognise now, this is a good getting away there.
Yeah, they're using it for one thing. Nice and bright there, isn't it?
Works, I'm giving you a tip. On the other side of the gate, it's like that. They'll come up, hop out, comes in, need that. There we go, take it over the nose. Oh, you're not going down there, are you?
Yeah, we come down.
Looks like hiding in everyone. I usually get...
Look around.
And saw Jay Drake win at Knoxville. When he went to Eagle.
$1 million to win. They're saying on the TV today,
As long as we keep Barry Davies away from that. What's it like to feel like a movie star, do you?
Embarrassing, isn't it?
Oh, you're on camera. Yeah, get a good one, Rhonda. G'day, Al. You could have put the grog on for enough now.
Well, how was that? How was the food? Ripper. Well, Al, before we move on to some of the fun part of the night, just wanted to ask you, as brief as you can, over a long career, spanning a lot of years, some of your highlights.
Oh, I don't know. Just being in it and being part of it's a highlight. I moved from a country town called Broken Hill to Sydney, and when you come to Sydney, if you're not in some sort of sport, you can be pretty lonely. Big cities, don't mean to say you've got a lot of friends, you can be very lonely, but when you're in Speedway, you come somewhere and next thing you're in with another bunch of blokes that is just as silly as yourself. And, you know, you're just happy. What it is, Speedway is a family. And there's a lot of faces here tonight, and I think I could call them all my friends. They're just nice people. It's just fantastic, and that's a highlight.
Yeah, well said, Al. I couldn't agree more. I think it's one of those things that I can remember I can remember somebody saying once that could never understand how we all go out there and try and kill each other and then stand around and have a drink afterwards.
Well, I'd never forgive myself if I killed someone, and I've definitely always considered that there's no race worth a life. That's definitely something I've worked on, and I appreciate the other blokes that think much the same way. You go out and race as hard as you can, but be a little bit sensible about it, and that's how you'll survive. And you might win every race, but you'll get your share, and you'll end up enjoying it all.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Briefly, some of your major competitions, hardest people to beat.
Oh, gee, I don't know. There's accidents there in the night, and there was a devoted bloke, and a fella that played it by the rules. He sure as hell never done anything stupid. He just drove awful hard, and he kept his mind on the job, and I enjoyed a lot of racing with him. And it's lovely when you can actually go around someone, because a lot of them will take you into the fence, because that's the way they're made. So one thing you've got to really know when you're racing people, there's going to be a bit of a flea take you into the pickets. And I know with Hutcho, I can make a little narrow pass on the outside, and you know he wouldn't work up track. Another bloke here tonight, Max Kittle, we've had a lot of tussles, and Max was another bloke that drove real hard, and you know that he'd give you enough room, it wouldn't put you in the hospital. There's Kevin Gormley over here, I don't know how many bloody races we went in wheel to wheel, and he was another bloke the same. He'd make it as hard as he possibly could for you, but he wouldn't do anything dopey and dumb. And that's how you can finish the night, and you can all go and have a drink and enjoy yourself and enjoy the sport. So you don't want nothing given to you, but you don't want anyone to be a dill.
Yeah, well said, well said. Well, we've got a few people that are going to get up and say a few words tonight, so I don't know whether you want to sit. We've got a chair up here for you.
Thank you, make it hard for me on.
I'm just going to tell you what I wanted for Christmas. To start off the proceedings tonight, I'd like to call on the editor of Speedway World, Peter White.
Just before Pete gets here, there's a little boy sitting in the gutter and he's crying. And the old man come along, he said, "Why are you crying, little boy?" And he said, "Well, I can't do what my 18-year-old brother does." So the old bloke sat down there to howl with him.
Thanks very much for inviting me to speak, Alan. Alan Skeen, that is. It's a great pleasure to be here to pay tribute to Alan Streader. As most people know, Speedway World started 14 years ago this year, and Alan has written a column for Speedway World, starting with the very first issue 14 years ago, and running right through until the current issue. And the only time that Alan has ever missed an edition was when I asked him to, because I was either going away overseas or we were tight for space for some particular reason. And since Speedway World has been fortnightly publishing right through until the last month, for Alan Streader to have written a column every fortnight and religiously covered his true love of compact speed cars is a tremendous achievement. Alan is a race car driver and a mechanic, not a journalist. So it's a real effort for Alan to put the words together, but he does it with a love of the sport, and because I ask him to, and you've got no idea how much I appreciated Alan and how much I revere you for doing something that I know doesn't come easy to you, but you stick at it, and I think it's just terrific. The other thing is that Alan is just devoted to the compact speed cars, and he writes about the compacts with a great passion, but with no disrespect to the compacts, my readers tell me that they really look forward to the off-season, the winter season, because it's then that Alan writes his yarns, and that's what the people really like to read. I will never forget one night at Gosford, a sidecar rider named Greg Griffiths came up to me in the pits and he said, "Peter, you've just got to tell Alan Streader to stop writing about the compacts and write every issue these yarns." And he started to laugh, and after a while he broke out and he just couldn't stop laughing. He said, "Streader wrote about this old bloke in Broken Hill who used to go around with a bit of 4x2 bashing his dog over the head." And apparently Griffo could identify with that, and he said, "I was sitting down having a beer and the tears were rolling out of my eyes, and Alan Streader has this knack of writing, which is amazing for a race car driver and a man who's a great mechanic as well, to be able to sit down and write these yarns that can bring tears to grown men's eyes." The other thing about Alan that I really like is that in the pits and behind the scenes he can swear with the best of them, but he can also get up here with the microphone and keep it straight and keep it clean like only old blokes can, and be funny. And he doesn't have to drop the swear word in, and yet he's just as funny as blokes who do have to drop the swear word in to get a laugh. But I'm one of those people who looks up to Alan Streader. I think he's just a gem in Speedway. I think he's just terrific, but I'm not much of a raconteur really, and I can't really tell tales about him like other people can. All I can do is say how good he is, and that's not part of a roast. A couple of weeks ago I was at the Litre sprint car presentation night, and my very good friend and bloke who lives near me and has a business in Sefton is Georgie Winder, and George is a former New South Wales Litre champion, and George was telling me a yarn about Alan, and it creased me up. It's a terrific yarn, and I can't tell it as well as George can, so I'm going to ask George to come up here and join us now. Please, if you will, George. And George... George has done a lot of laps with Alan. Before turning to leaders, George was in the compact speed cars, and he's an old pal of Alan's. And I want George to tell you this yarn because this is just Alan Streader to a T. Thanks, George.
Thanks, Peter. Well, first and foremost, I'd like to say I reckon he's a legend. And just as Peter said, we got to talking there one time, and he was saying how you got your writing in every week. He said, "Gee, I'd like to write something about Alan." Well, an hour later, he was on the ground kicking his legs and couldn't believe it. He said, "But I can't print any of those." You've got to put. So I remember one time we were going, I think through the hay farms. I'm nervous, I'm sorry. And we're going along. You had your shed. I had your shed. You had your Pontiac. And next thing is this big blaze of sparks off the back of your trailer. And we tried to catch you. We were going really quick. We couldn't catch you. And we finally caught you. And you'd lost the tyre. The tyre had gone. The mudguard had gone. We said, "Surely you must have known the wheel wasn't there." What you replied was, "No, the bloody Pontiac didn't care whether it had a tyre on it or not." Remember that? Sorry for being so nervous.
I'm just going to give George a breather because George is actually in great pain, and he's doing me a big favour to tell us this story because amongst other things, a few years ago George had a real big buster in the leaders, but that's irrelevant because he's actually panel beater by trade, and somewhere along the line he's got a pinched nerve in his back and he's in real agony, but he's put that to one side to come up here and tell us about the night that they were at a special compact club meeting down in Burwood, and there was this guy there from the Combined American Insurance who'd come along to try and sell the compact speed car drivers an insurance policy. You see, Alan knows what's coming. A grin is creeping across his face. He knows what's coming. And George was there, and George is going to tell us what happened when this Yankee guy got up to sell his insurance policy to these speed car drivers.
Yeah, actually, it wasn't the Yankee guy. It was they changed the insurance from Combined America. Remember that? Yep. And he got up. It was so much for an arm, so much for a leg, so much for a finger. And the inevitable thing happened. I think it might have been Alan anyway. Alan's Skeen. Yeah, said, what about this was payouts on what if you lost something? What about if you lose your mortal? So I immediately looked around to see where Alan was, because he's so quick with it. Up goes the hand. Yes, Alan, I don't know what you blokes are going to do, but I'm going out to buy the best storage money to buy all night like I'm, he says. And there we go. And also, I think it was Friday Shackleton. Remember him? Yeah. He gets up and he says, what you guys use for radius rods? Some fans says a piece of steel. A couple of brake adjusters hold the rim, roll it up, we get a chrome plate. And he says, well, we use aluminum. He says, you just drill it and tap it. And what's more, you don't have to chrome plate it, remember? Yep. He says, you just polish it. So immediately I looked for Alan. Up goes the hand. Yours nice and shiny? As a matter of fact, they are. He says, the boys have done a nice job. Why do you ask him? He's going to sandblast the bastards fully as that big guy. He's such a quick-witted old fella. And he always used to lie about his age. Never would. He started speedway when I was 1 year old. And he had, everyone used to look up to him. There'd be 20 blokes in the pits to see what he did to his car. Everyone would be changing things. They'd watch it. You didn't know. But anyway, I just wish you good night. And, you know, I'm glad it's known. Okay? Sorry for the...
Thanks, George. We appreciate that. When George told me that one about Alan and the insurance plate and what happened if you lost your private part, and Alan would buy the biggest torch he could find and go searching for it. The way George told that just crippled me. Good on you, Alan. And Alan Streader, it's a pleasure to know you. You're a gentleman.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Peter. You want the right to reply?
I think you've said enough there.
Righto. Well, we'll move on to our next prime suspect. Another old sparring partner of yours, Al, Ash Kindred. Where are you, Ash?
When I was a little kid, I wanted to play cricket like Chris Mill. When I got to be a bigger kid, I wanted to drive a car down Streader. Well, I never did play cricket like Chris Mill. And guess what else never happened? But in the early 70s, I got a chance to drive a speed car. And Alan Streader praised me as the SRA. So we went on to a meeting one night, they met at a club, we were having a quiet beer, and it was near these two old blokes. And now, all of a sudden Alan said, I know you, you're from Broken Hill. Some bloke said, oh yeah. They started talking about Broken Hill for a while. And Alan said, I used to drive some bikes up there. And our bloke said, oh, you must know so-and-so. So Alan started rattling off a few names. No, this bloke's better than him. So another name? No, he's better than this bloke, you know. So they went through another white rider in Broken Hill, and he ran out of names. So I said, no, he dropped it. You must be talking about Alan Streader. So I said, that's the bloke, Alan Streader. You must know Alan Streader. I'm feeling Alan did about 3 pirouettes, you know, and I'm embarrassing him. And the old bloke went away, I think he'd met his hero for the night. But I couldn't let the night go without writing a poem. Is it true that some of you people think that when you die you're going to go to hell's house? Well, Margaret said that you're not. Just wait. I wrote this poem, and I sent it off. I thought it was so good, I sent it off to a competition. They sent it back with a note and said, get real. But they didn't say get real what, so I don't know. It's called the Alan Streader story, The Truth at Last. Nothing less than this is Georgia. He started off in Broken Hill on his trusty valet, but I'm yet to hear someone say Alan Streeter's kind of mellow. His outfit was a Norton. Boy, did it roar. But the scrutineer kept on shouting, someday I'll check that ball. He brought a car to Windsor, where Ray Platt wore the crown. But Platty had to lift his game. Alan Streeter had hit town. He bought the car you see here now, and boy did he set sail. It wasn't long before you saw number 1 painted on the tail. He bought a Holden speed car. He was about to be a star. But the first night out they black flagged him. His head was above the bar. He tripped it up with a Chevy too. And as Sid munched on his ice Volvo, I heard him say, hang on a bit, I ought to know, that's a bloody Volvo. While racing at the showground, he sure had lots of luck. But I bet his greatest moment was when he won the Governor's Cup. There's more to tell, but we haven't got time, about the compacts and the offie. So drop in one day, he'll tell you himself, and Margaret will make you a coffee. He's still involved even now. They say he should take a breather, but I doubt the bugger ever will, because he's the legend, Alan Streader.
Thanks, Ash. Well, there you go. What about that, eh?
I couldn't have wrote a better poem myself, Al.
Yeah, likewise. This is amazing. The Speedway people, they never cease to amaze you, do they? Come out with a gem like that.
Brain smashing.
Unbelievable. Well, moving right along. Our next, shall we say, victim, is somebody we saw in the videos while we were eating. Alan mentioned him. We haven't seen him round compacts for a little while, but he's here tonight to pay his respects. Ron Hutchinson.
When I first come in contact with Alan, I decided that it was time that I wanted to make a move at the Speedway and get involved. I was having a look at the fence one night, and Alan seemed to be one of the staunch club members and was going particularly well. I think he won most of the races on the night. So I struck up a conversation with Alan on what cars were available for sale, and he said, come around tomorrow and we'll go through all this. And he was going through this car and that car and all the others, but I just done a little bit of homework behind the scenes, unbeknown to Alan, and somebody told me that he had his car for sale at one stage, and I just touched on the subject after we went through 40 other cars for sale, and he said, no, he said, my car's not for sale. I had a failure up in Brisbane, and the engine went kaput, and I left with the dirt, and just happened to mention to somebody, you know, I think I'll give it away. Someone comes up with $6,000, they can have this car if I'm out of here. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll keep this in mind. And coming from go-karts, I knew it wasn't the way to go for me was to start off with something that was inferior. So the next Saturday night, Alan invited me to come along. And I had $5.5 grand in the right pocket. I had 500 in the left one. And Alan said, "Come and give me a hand." I said, "Yeah, sure, mate, not a problem. You know, I need to find out what's going on here." And just as he came out to the feature race, Mike Raymond sent word down and said, "Alan," he said, "if you must win again tonight, not till the last corner." And Alan sent the message back to Raymond, "When you're paying the bills, you can tell me when I can win and when I can't win." Anyway, I was really interested in that race because I had my stopwatch there, and funny thing, he was doing 15 seconds dead, and that's what he'd been doing the previous week. So he flew into the pits and he loaded up and he was in a hurry, and I said to him, "I want to talk to you about that car that you got for sale." And he said, no, he said, "I'm in a hurry, I want to get going." I said, "Oh, fair enough." I said, "How much did you say you wanted for it? Would you take 5.5 grand? No, he said, "I mentioned it, 6 grand or nothing." So the boys, his crew and that, were loading up the car and sticking all the stuff in the boot. And I said, "Well, here's your bloody money." I threw it all in the boot. All of a sudden he had all the time in the world to talk to me. And I think his crew were dumbfounded because my crew had already got the trail and we were off. So, that's just a nice little story I'd just like to share with you. Okay, I'll just make a few notes here. What I noticed is coming into the sport that people drift in and people drift out of the sport, and I came in and I came out as well. People leave their influence on the sport and on people, but Alan has always been the sport. He is the sport, he is the backbone of this club and always has been. He obviously came from the bush. Benny couldn't be here tonight, but he knew you from Broken Hill days and he wishes his best. Alan is a true racer. He learned his craft by the seat of his pants. There was no such thing as technology, do this, do that. No theories. Let's get out and make it practice. Let's get out and make it work. A harder driver, as I said before, you couldn't find anyone cleaner or harder to race against than Alan. The best thing about Alan is that he knows how to be a good winner and a great driver, and he's done that because he knows that before you can reach that status, you have to know how to lose the race. And we've had some great tussles over the years that I've involved, and Alan's always been the first one to come up and offer his hand of congratulations, and I've always admired that. And as he said earlier, it's nice to know that your life is in somebody else's hands, and you've got to show mutual respect to these sorts of people. It's a testament to Alan's great ability and his influence, and that's evident by everybody that's come along to help us celebrate tonight. Okay, now I've told Alan personally this, but I think that he's absolutely one of the best fair income racers that we've had. I've been in go-karts and other forms of motorsport for many, many years, and I've never enjoyed my motor racing as much as what I have against Alan, and I really appreciate that. He's been a champion on the track, and he's a champion guy off the track, and it's been a great pleasure to have been part of my life. But I've known Alan, we're good mates, and I'd like you all just to raise a glass and salute Alan, because tonight's your night, and we thank you, and we wish you all the best.
You stand up there. I'll look up there, don't worry.
Have you noticed how old everybody is in this room apart from you and me?
Poor bastards.
Thank you very much, Ron. If you watch closely in those videos we saw earlier, Ron was right there, I think at one stage sitting right on your tail at Liverpool, if memory serves me correctly, on your favourite surface too, on the asphalt.
Now the jokes are getting on, aren't they? I sat in the car at the showground one night, all ready to get pushed away in the feature race, and Mike Raymond come up and says, I hope you like it here tonight, because next year we're going to asphalt this track. And I said, that's the sort of thing you would do. And he said, you've got a marvellous grip of the English language, Alan.
We all love the asphalt, didn't we, Al? Righto, our next speaker from some years gone by, and as Ron Hutchinson said, and that's one of the troubles with a reunion type thing like this, is that everybody else has got so much older that they don't recognise you anymore, isn't it? Our next speaker, Cole Day.
I'm afraid I'm going to be a little bit like George. I'm not a man for talking on mics, but I make the best of it. I've brought a little bit of paper to help me. So it works better if you put it up the right way. I met Alan Streader, as we all know, the Red Baron, in the late 60s, and was given the chance to be on his pit crew of the Holden Powered 34 speed car. At this time, he also was running Errol Hughes's junior speed car, which we know now as compacts. And Al used to maintain, drive, do everything on that car as well. After a season or so, Al decided then that we'd build up a better car with a hook rail type chassis to replace the old open rail chassis. And in those days, of course, I was only the helper. Al also decided that we'd build up, or not we, Al did, the high compression Holden motor to give the car a bit more grunt. Al started racing this car in the 70-71 season. One of Al's biggest fans was, and still is, my son Alan Day, who at the age of 4 wore an Alan Streader tracksuit, which we still have, which is over here. Not everybody could have one of those. While still pitting on Alan Streader's car, I went and started to build my own car with the help of Alan. I look back upon these times as my apprenticeship to Speedway. I learned a lot from an expert. Since then, I have owned my own cars for Bob and had Bob Pimble and my sons Alan Day and the late Rodney Day drive with the help and advice from Alan Streader, that is. Alan Streader, in my eyes, not only are you a legend, you are the legend. Thank you. I'm sorry I was so nervous.
Thanks very much, Cole. Anything to say there, big fella?
I feel like a Bex and a cup of tea.
Don't think you're going to get it. Now, we've got a couple of apologies that we're going to break up into a couple of different areas. So if you'd just like to keep your eye on the video screen, we've got a couple of people that want to say a few words.
Well, next up then, hope you have a good night. Sorry I couldn't be there, we're down at the snow this weekend with the boys, it's an annual type thing, and hope your night goes off well. Enjoy it.
Hi Al, how are you? Congratulations on this night. I'm sorry that I can't be there to enjoy the night with you. But Al, you've had an illustrious career in Speedway, very dedicated to the division that you raced in, the compacts. You were a pleasure to race with. You've always been a great friend. Possibly you've done a lot for many people in the sport that a lot of people wouldn't know about. But Al, you've just been a great ambassador for the sport, and I hope you enjoy a very good night tonight. And I will see you shortly to have a couple of hours with you. Have a good night, Al.
Sid Milvers, Max Dunstan.
Yeah, well, what do you say? Sid was a star, there's no doubt about that. And we're bump wheels. But I haven't done much racing with Max, but I know that the man is just a top sportsman and a top driver, so they were very nice.
We've got a couple of, I don't know why I'm standing up here, probably so I can be taller than you. We've got a couple of people who've sent, in the old days when you and I were young, well probably when you were young it was horses, but when I was young, they used to call these telegrams. Nowadays they're called things like emails and all of those fancy things. So we've got a couple of those that people have sent, and I'll just read out a couple of those. Alan Streader, congratulations on a great and highly successful career over a long period of time. I'm sorry I can't be with you on this momentous occasion, but commitments with another event in the near future of equal importance called the Sydney Olympics have committed my time elsewhere. I hope you have a great night and sincerely hope we have not seen the last of your exploits on the track. Enjoy the night, Steve Raymond. And another one here. Humblest apologies for being unable to make it tonight due to some prior commitments. However, whilst I have anything to do with Parramatta Speedway, there is a season pass in your name to Parramatta, Dave Lander. One more. Sorry I can't be with you, Alan Streader. Sorry I can't be with you tonight, but prior commitment precludes my attendance. You've had a great career, and I'm sure we have not seen the last of you yet. Enjoy the night and look forward to a lot more good times. Best wishes, Alan Edworthy. We'll move along to some more guest speakers. All the way from Queensland to pay his respects to you, Rod Singleton.
Thanks very much. From Queensland Club, Alan. No one deserves it any more than you do. But I've seen Alan in a better light. I think when I first started off, I was 21 years old. And I got a phone call from this gentleman. He said, my name's Alan Streader. Well, I didn't know who the hell Alan Streader was. And he said, look, I want somewhere to stay. I'm coming up there to race. Was it possible to stay at your place? And I said, yeah, fine, no worries. I live by myself. This great gentleman turns up at my door. And I said, what are we doing Saturday afternoon before the Speedway? And he said, oh, I got nothing on. I said, good, let's go water skiing. So I took out, I'm not a friend who remembers this. I took him up skiing. We had this device, we called it, the death weapon. And it was a big, huge tractor tyre. And it had a board inside it wrapped around with tarpaulin. And if you talk Speedway going fast, this thing is quick. 2 years hop on it, and you hang on for grim death. And my brother had an extremely fast ski boat, see? So he says, how fast do you want to go? And I said, well, this Alan Streader is supposed to be a pretty quick race car driver, and I'd like not to race against him tonight. So we both jumped on this thing, and on this thing you had a leaner who leaned really hard to the left, and you had a guy at the front who was the stabiliser. Now, if the tube dug in that way, you were that way. If the tube went the other way, you come off backwards, which was a lot gentler than going that way. The boat was doing 60 mile an hour. You passed the boat, you're doing 120 mile an hour. Well, I was swearing a straight line. Alan was packing shit. He's hanging on to me and he's saying, "Oh shit, this is quick." I said, "We haven't come to the corner yet." And I said, "When we come to the corner, for goodness sake, hang on, we're both dead." So we took off into this corner, and I'm the leaner, I'm the stabiliser, and I looked around at Alan. He was underwater. His head is dragging. I looked at him saying, "Oh God, we're going to die, we're going to die." It was death-defying, and at the end of the day, Alan climbs into the boat. He gets into the boat, and he is absolutely just a wet, sogging mess. And I thought, good, I'm going to kick his ass tonight. And guess who came a long way down the track? It wasn't Alan. Alan was the type of guy, and I've been driving 30 years, and I would say out of all my racing experience that I've raced, Alan raced up there amongst one of the top drivers I've ever raced against. I've seen them all. I've seen the John McFarlanes. I always said John McFarlane was the most aggressive driver around in my era. Alan was the smoothest driver around in my era, and Ron Hutchison was one of the top drivers also that I've ever raced against. I couldn't resist the temptation to come down here. We had our federation meeting today, and we worked it in so I could come and put some bag on Alan. There's only one little story I'd like to tell you before I go. If you haven't seen any machining done by Alan, it's absolutely fabulous. And we were getting all this machining sent up to us for our compacts, and it was just fabulous work. And I thought, well, this guy must have a fabulous workshop. He must have the updated stuff. So I come down for a race meeting, and I thought, I can't help but want to drop in and see this fantastic workshop Alan's got. Well, I drove up and down the street, and I kept seeing this old house. And I said, well, it can't be the one. And I said, well, that's the number we got. So I walk in there, and here's Alan in this old shed. He's got dirt floors. He's got machinery that Noel used to build the ark. And the workmanship of this gentleman is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. And all over the years, anything I've ever got from Alan was fabulous. And the next thing was, that night I went to the Speedway and I said to a guy, a very good friend of mine at the time, Gary Pollock, and I said to Gary, I went down on the Streader's place today. And he said, was the grass long or was the grass short? I thought, that's a stupid question. I said, I think it was long. He said, oh, the guinea pig must have died. And I said, what's the guinea pig? He said, there's a cage. And how he knows his grass is by moving the cage around. And I actually think that was true. I really do. But I could go on. I could go on. And I know that every time, even later in his racing career, we've had some good battles with Alan. I've had some good battles with Alan, but like Alan said before, I distinctly feel in my time in racing cars, like Alan said before, you go out, you race with guys, and you have a respect for the guy that you're racing with, that I had for Alan. I had for Ron Hutchison, I had for Warren Wright, and those type of gentlemen. I think today, the era of young generation is coming through, don't have that same respect. They rather run over you and win the race than give you the racing room that you need. And I believe that's why a lot of people these days is the fun has gone from compacts as far as fun existed. It's become very competitive. In Brisbane, I might talk from Brisbane, there's 10 guys that can win feature races up there, and they're very cutthroat. I believe the social aspects of what we used to have in the old days can't be replaced. And it's died, and it's a shame. But when there's any socialising to do, there was always John McFarlane and Alan Streader at the head of it. If there was trouble around at the track, at night time after the race meeting, you can guarantee Alan was in the thick of things. I congratulate you, Alan. I only wish that one day I become as respected as you, because you are at the top of any ladder there is. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Rod. Great. I thought we got rid of you too easily.
Yeah, well, this is getting a bit heavy. I'm glad he brought a little bit of mercy, and I think we should enjoy ourselves tonight. It's all right, people dumping all good stuff on me. I think we've got to have some fun. So, someone say something funny.
Tell us about the guinea pig.
The story of the guinea pig. Guinea pigs multiplied. Then I got a blue-heeled dog.
It just gets better and better, doesn't it? Our next victim, Bill Law. Where are you, Bill?
Thanks, Alan. There you asked someone to be serious, and talk about all those fantastic times you had. But, I've had a tremendous amount of luck in my years with Speedway, meeting people in our club, our vintage movement. But tonight, it's extra special. And, I can't make jokes tonight because I wasn't around with your compact racing. But I know your history in the speed cars is just phenomenal. I know there's a lot of people here tonight that probably doesn't know his records in speed cars, but I did a little, as a historian of the Vintage Speed Car Association, I did a little bit of research the other night. And Alan, it really is marvellous what you have done. I'm going to be serious because I think this is fantastic. His first appearance in the feature race of the showground was the 18th of January 69. And his first heat win was against Middlemas and Rush that same year. Over the period of time, he's raced and won and raced against the best in this country and America. His first feature race win was in 1970 in a 20-lapper. He just to get past the Bullpen's corner at the Sydney Showground was really something special. You know, with 20 cars all bunched up in a heap as they go into turn one, and to win a feature race was just something special as well. But Alan's taken out 5 at the Magic Sydney Showground with the track we call the best in the world, and he's raced against some of the best, and some of the Americans it just astounds you what he's done. His last feature race appearance at the Showground was on February the 5th, 1977. And between 1969 and 1977, Alan appeared in over 60 career feature races at the Great Royal. And he had 5 victories, 2 seconds, 4 thirds, 2 fourths, 3 fifths, 3 sixths, and so on. He's competed against Americans Mel Bettenhausen, Hank Butcher, Johnny Parsons, Jimmy Kirk, Les Scott. These were all the drivers that came out here when Alan was driving the Vision. Just names legends in America, and even the legendary 2-gun Tattersall he's banged wheels with. For the Liverpool City Speedway, he's won feature races on the dirt in the hole, and he's won feature races in the offie on the tar. So, the history of Alan Streader is something really special. And, these trophies for the compact division that you've probably raced more in that division more so than the speed cars, is testimony of the champion that you are. And as far as I'm concerned, you are a real legend. And it's been a privilege to be up here tonight and say a few words on your behalf. And I'm sorry I can't race you because at our last club meeting, he was voted as president of our club, so I've got to be nice to him. Thanks very much, Alan.
Thank you, Bill. Well, there you go. Just before we move on to our next speaker, I must say it would be remiss of me if I didn't welcome everybody here tonight, and it is a pleasure to see such a great cross-section of people from all forms of speedway here tonight. Such is the esteem that this man has held. Again, I thank you for your attendance. Just on that subject, there's a lot of work that goes into a night like this, and as I'm sure Al has probably got a fair idea, although he wasn't involved in too much of it. The idea was formed, I guess, some months ago, and the first people I spoke to about it was the ever-reliable Harold and Pat Fanning, who immediately attacked the idea with great gusto and came on board. We formed a steering committee to set this up. It was Harold and Pat Fanning, my wife Diane, of course, and myself, Ash Kindred, and Leanne Middlemas. And to those people, we thank you very much. And just for a change of pace, we're going to get the ladies' point of view. Are you ready for this, big fella?
I'm never ready for that.
Again, all the way from Queensland, and Ed Chapman.
And it was doing the PR at Mount Isa one night, and the white ants had been into the control booth. It's a bit hard for her to see the numbers of the cars from where she ended up.
Yeah, that's the truth. I really did. Went straight through the bloody floor up. And when I got round after the race meeting, my husband came up and I said to him, the least you could have bloody done was come over and seen how I was. He said, what happened to you? I mean, everybody else, the whole crowd knew, except my own husband. But I'd like to say that I've watched Ellen race from Bendigo right up into Cape York. And for compact speed cars, I believe that Ellen has done more in travelling, and especially for the provincial towns, than any other driver I've ever come across. And I mean, I've been around compact since 1958, so that's a darn long time. And when we started off, my husband and I, Mount Isa, for the compacts in 1982, I think it was, I rang Alan up and said, can you come up for the first meeting? Well, he didn't have a car then, so he couldn't make it. But I think he must have made at least a dozen trips to Mount Isa since then, every time we've asked him. And every time he's been in Mount Isa, I don't know whether it's coincidence or not, but every time he's been in Mount Isa has taken off the award in Queensland for selling the most grog. So, I'm not quite sure if that's coincidence or not. But he's raced in Mount Isa for us, he's raced in Mareeba, Cairns, Townsville, and even Collinsville. And I mean, he does get his knickers in a knot sometimes at a race meeting. I was doing the pit marshalling at Collinsville for a Queensland title a few years back, and he's running around like a chook with his head chopped off. And I said to him, I've bloody well told you where you're starting. And he said, no, nobody's told me, he's going on. So I said to him, well, look, just get the shit out your ears and listen to what I'm telling you and line up. But Alan, you have done a hang of a lot for compact speed cars, and I'm quite proud to stand up here and say, on behalf especially of all the provincial towns in Queensland, thanks very much.
Thanks, Annette. Well, there you go.
Yeah, well, And it was just scratching my back. But Annette Chapman's a person that's always been there and helped clubs and people in clubs, and her house was always open, and I've been there when there's been a whole bunch of people descend on the town, and they always made you welcome. And her husband Ian, if someone broke a motor or something on the first night of racing, they'd stay up all night to fix the thing and get you back on the track. So it's a kettle calling the pot black or something here. She's a fantastic person. And like I said earlier, it's a family, and gee, it's nice to be nice.
Next person up is an old car owner. Well, he's not old. No, he's not old. Not by comparison to you and I. For the car owner of yours, Ray Scarborough. Did he say you're in trouble?
Here's another non-drinker.
Non-drinker? I just want to get one thing straight. About, I think it was 1972, we were down at Myrtleford, a little town down in Melbourne. We're out of Melbourne. We went down for an Easter break, as we did for a lot of years. And we had a few jugs or so on Saturday afternoon. But this fella used to follow the Richmond VFL then. And he used to get a few guys together and away he'd go down and watch the VFL. Anyway, whatever time, I think he got back about 10:30 at night. But in the meantime, we'd had a few jugs. Someone bought a few kilos of prawns. The guy's name was, unfortunately he's not here tonight, he's passed on. Anyway, we got stuck into these prawns. And it was pretty late in the evening. And someone said, we've got to put these prawns somewhere. So two guys stuck them under the seat of Alan Streader's TQ Midget. And he was going to race his car on Sunday. And for about 3 years ago, I think, the subject came up. I got the blame for this. Because when Alan drove in from the VFL, I happened to stand right by his car. But I'm here to tell you, the two blokes that did this are in here tonight. It wasn't me. So you can take this up anytime you like this evening. It wasn't me. So it was 28 years ago. I think the guy used to go on the car too, I think, remember? Anyway, that's just a little story. So we're all cleared up on that. Another little thing is, Alan and I went to Surfers Paradise, I think, for the Queensland Championship. And as someone else, he said he had this big Pontiac four-door Parisian thing. And at that stage, I had a 6-cylinder DJ Holden, I think it was at the time. Pretty heavy to steer thing. And we got to Kempsey. We stopped on the side of the road and had a bite to eat in a park somewhere. But normally when you drive with Al, he's always going to ask you. And in that ask he's got this drink he used to call White Death. Yes, Carlton Draft. Which kills me. I used to drink that KB Gold one, it was a good drop. Anyway, you drive along the road, 10 o'clock, as soon as the clock struck 10, I'll come leave. This is your random breath testing. So we, drink and drive, can here, can there.
we stopped at Kempsey, I think it was, and had a sandwich or something in the park or something. And we sort of said, you can have a drive. Well, I've never driven anything like this big white tank. It's got power steering and all that sort of stuff. Big V8. A bit different to me little EJ Holden. So away we go off the road. Up the road. First turn left. We're up over the gutter. He said, what are you doing? Turn the steering wheel. He said, it's got progressive power steering. I said, what's that? He said, you don't turn it that far. You just turn a little bit. I said, oh, I didn't know. He said, but we're in the end of the bush. That's where. But anyway, he let me drive it for I don't know how long. We got up the surface and had a good time. We made it back home and we were silly. That was good. But, I think that's the last time I drove the car. Anyway, mate, you're a legend, and I'd like to congratulate you.
Thank you, Ray. Alan, in fact, drove Ray's compact speed car to win an Australian title?
Yes.
New South Wales title.
What happened, Ray and I had a good little understanding there. I didn't let him drive the Pontiac and he let me drive his race car. That was good. But I went up and raced at a place called, I forget, it was nearly up to Rocky, Gladstone, that's right. I go and race at Gladstone one night, and the next day there was a championship on for litre cars at a place called Kabucha. And because I was Australia #1 at the time, they wanted me to go and race with them, and I got authority from the club to go and race with the different divisions. And I turned up with Ray's little 750 Triumph, and they got their 1400 motors, and they would grease their tyres so they could slip past each other and all this crap. And they said, that's not the car you won the title in. I said, yep, that's it. Oh, they said, oh, we build you up and all this sort of business. They were terrible. And I went out and blew the bloody doors off them.
True story. Just before we move on to our next little bit, we've got a couple of more people that want to send their regards. I'm reminded of a story, and I'm not going to get him up to say a few words, but I'm reminded of a story about a match race between you and Michael Matt.
Oh, yes. I admit when I'm beating Michael Madden's here tonight, and he done me cold. We're going to have 3x2 laps at Newcastle on a practice day. I won the first one convincingly. Michael won the second one, and I lost the edge of the track and looped it on the third one where I'm going to blow the bloody doors off him. It didn't work. And Michael won, and there was money on the race, so I lost.
And Michael probably only told that story about 475,000 times. Is that right, Bob? Okay, we've got a couple of more people that want to send their regards via the video.
Hi Alan, it's Rod Bowen. Just want to wish you all the best on your testimonial night out, and hope you level all your good friends. Just want to say thanks very much for all the help over the years. Sorry to see that you're retiring. I don't think you're really ready for it, but mate, just hope you do have a great night, and I do hope to see you again soon. Thanks very much.
G'day Al, how you going, mate? Sorry I can't be with you tonight, but you had a couple of washouts on your day to have your night, and I have to go off to another deal. I've just been making this set of drums for this 60th birthday, and I still remember the good times of the compact speed cars. I sort of remember when I ran my modified back in the heydays, and every opportunity we got, we went off to watch the compact speed cars. And I knocked around with Steve Pollock there for a while, and I thought you guys back then done a very, very good job. Hey, you'll have a great night there. Cheers.
Well, they've said it all. I still like to have some laughs.
The last people up tonight, unless there's anybody else, is there anybody else that chickened out early in the night that has now changed their mind and would like to come up and say a few words? I can't see you, bro. There's too many lights. On me, son. Turn that spotlight on me. Now, this is someone that I think you'll know, Al, and they're going to come up here en masse. Alan's family, and I believe the spokesperson is Megan Stewart.
So you wanted some laughs?
This could be playback time.
Us streeters, straighters, whatever. It hasn't affected us at all. So I thought we'd just talk about how Speedway's affected our lives. First of all, it was very important in our education. We learnt to count. 1, 2, restart. 1, 2. We used to have very important jobs of sitting backwards in the car before they had seat belts and keeping an eye out for policemen following us along the road. We learned that Dad really couldn't cook, but he used to make terrible smells in the kitchen, boiling up his chains. We used to go on holidays, but we always took the speed car. We couldn't pack much because the car was full of spare tyres, fuel, but we used to be able to take a toothbrush or so. I've forgotten what else I was going to say. The others won't say anything, they're terrible. There were a fair few scarves. We always, there were lots of scarves. And there were 56 guinea pigs.
One blue wheeler. Very fast.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll tell you about guinea pigs. I had guinea pigs as a small child, which I loved. And Dad was never fond of guinea pigs. So when I grew up, I gave him 2 for a joke, but he never got it. And the 2 ended up as 56, until he got the blue wheeler. Matt only ever said, "Go, Dad."
This is my grandfather. And it used to be great. I used to tell the mates down the road, you know, my grandpa's coming down town. We're up in Brisbane. And they expected this frail old bloke coming down with his walking frame. So, nothing prouder than seeing him come down towing the speed car, holding the sarsaparilla 1 litre bottle like a broomstick, marching in the door. We were heroes for a week. And some of my mates didn't really get the jokes he told at the dinner table. What's he mean by, you've got to have roots for a family tree?
Barbecues we used to have in our front yard too after an afternoon racing at Windsor, and we'd have the projector and a screen and turn the front yard into a movie theatre and then light a fire in the driveway, and we've learnt some very interesting songs about magpies. I think that's about it. And retiring, we haven't heard anything about retiring. That's it.
I haven't either. Yeah.
Well, soon as they wouldn't tell the story, I'll tell the story about the famous red scarf over here. But Margaret told me the story about, I think the first time you went racing was a red scarf. And Margaret sewed in your name, embroidered your name in the side of the scarf. And it got stolen. First time out, got stolen. So, let's make another one. Made another one, embroidered the name in the scarf, disappeared. Never to be seen again. Finally, in frustration, Al said, just make me a plain bloody red scarf.
And I bought her a knitting machine.
Your generosity was only exceeded by your good looks.
Up in Broken Hill was a bloke up there we call Bodgy. And Bodgy bought a little car and come along, and he enjoyed the sport. He wasn't in a very good machine, and he wasn't all that determined to win. But he wanted to run, and he had a very tight budget. So what we used to do, when his wife's iron blew up or something in the house, like the toaster, he'd buy one, and he'd bring it along to the race meet, and he'd say, put in the paper that I won a toaster. He'd go home with it and say, look, I won just what we wanted. And his wife fell for it for a bloody whole year. Never worked it out.
Yeah, they get better and better. Yeah. Well, Al, we've covered your most respected rival. We all know that your favourite surface was the asphalt at Liverpool, and how much you enjoyed that. Of all the tracks that you'd raced on, what's your favourite?
I think I've had more contact with wheels and enjoyed it most at the exhibition up in Brisbane. That was a pretty good track. I had a lot of racing at the showground, but you couldn't get quite as fierce as what you'd like to be there. It was a bit too fast, you had to have a bit too much respect. But up the Ecker, you could stick wheels into people and really enjoy yourself. And I parked Ronnie Wanless right in the middle when he was at his best, with his big Cessna full of bloody nitro. And I went in the pits and I thought, this bloke's a bit strange, you know. He gets in the ring and he don't advertise on the soles of his shoes. Like, he can stay on them. And he walked over to me after the race, and they were pushing his car back from where I'd left him parked in the middle. And he come up to me and he says, you were driving like Freddie the Bear, boy. Happy as happy.
Got out of another way. And I know what he's talking about. I can well remember one race we did, I think, up at Edinburgh. And it was a backmarkers race, and there was you and I think Leslie Begg, Kenny Cosgrove, Pitch, Ken Radcliffe, and a fellow by the name of Peter George, having his first run in a backmarkers race. And I can well remember Kenny Cosgrove was in front, my outside front wheel was inside his two wheels, and you were beside me, and your outside front wheel was inside mine, and I think Leslie Begg was behind you and yours were here. And we come back in after the race, and Peter George got out of his car, shook his head, and he said, you're bloody mad.
Well, it's lovely stuff. They have got photos of me doing naughty things, so I suppose, you know, they happen. Never intentional, but they just sort of slow down in front of you. That's how it works. If I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change a thing. It's just been fantastic. You have your bad nights, but your good ones make up for it, and you seem to remember the good ones a lot more. And a few little tinnies, and a bit of a story, and it's been marvellous fun, and I really and truly appreciate all you people coming here tonight. It's just fantastic, and it's been a nice night. I hope that in a year or so that there can be another night for someone else where we can all get back together and enjoy ourselves. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well said, well said. we all know that we haven't seen the last of Alan Streader on the Speedway. That there'll be some Nelly Melvers between now and whenever.
Well, it's an expense thing. The bones are there, it's the bloody wallet. And these promoters, like, they don't make it any easier to go racing. They just stick it up all the time. My income don't go to that stuff, so I might have to go easier financially.
I know exactly what you mean. I know exactly what you mean. Well, Al, we hope you've had a good night. It's been terrific to see all these people turn up to pay their respects to you. And I certainly, for one, hope that we haven't seen the last of you on the racetrack. Alan is what compact speed cars are all about. I've got a vested interest in that with my son Gavin, racing compact speed cars. Alan's helped me. I think I bought my second car from Alan and a lot of years ago. He's helped me. We've enjoyed each other's company both on and off the track. And I hope you're still around for a few years to come.
I'll try and do that.
All right, put your hands together. Thank you very much. Alan Streader. Before you go, thank you, Leanne. How remiss of me, I've got a couple more of these. Emails for us modern 90s people. We did that one. Bear with me, do my time. I've got a couple more here. Here we are. Right. Just hold this.
You never know what he'd forget.
Is it still there? Right. Mr. Alan Streader, Esquire. Sorry we can't be there. Have a great night. In fact, have a heap of great nights. And may your bluebird of happiness drop large numbers of turds on anyone who reckons you're not a genuine speedway legend. The Rains mob from Snake Gully just near Wagga. That's Noel Rains. Alan Streader, sorry I can't be with you tonight, but I have a prior commitment with the Big Bowls Carnival down here at Ulladulla over the whole weekend. However, have a great night and we can reflect back on a lot of good times we shared during my time at the Old Sydney Showground Speedway. I always found you and your club good to deal with and very cooperative, and I'm sure you will maintain your involvement with your beloved compact speed cars. Best wishes, Owen Bateman. Alan Streader. Al, sorry I can't be with you tonight, but I hope you have a great night. Your career was just starting in speed cars as mine was winding down, but you have had a great career and hung in there longer than most of us. Enjoy the night and best wishes for the future. Regards, Peter Canadian. Now this one comes with a cartoon. However, I'll draw it. It's got a picture as well. To Alan Streader, congratulations on 50 years of Speedway. Best wishes to the next 50 years. And there's a cartoon here now for another 50 years. Regards from Pro Heart.
Hey, good old Pro. I must tell you about Pro. Pro was very interested in the motorbike club when I was racing in Broken Hill. And he always got there. And Pro has got one of the most unusual senses of humour. And after the race meeting, we'd have a presentation thing with lots of kegs of beer and stuff. And Pro would bring these charcoal drawings he could do. And some people that are clever and gifted can just put a few lines on and you can see the expression and stuff. It's just marvellous. If I draw something, I've got to tell you what it is. But we had one race meeting at down in Mildura, and it was alongside the little Timmins Speedway, or not the Timmins, the River Speedway they got there near. And one of our blokes was riding a bit too hard, and he fell off the bike, and a clutch lever went through his nose. And he was down on the ground, not too good. I finished the race, and I come over to see how he was. Freddie Baldwin, his name was. And Freddie was laying back on the ground, and he was about 3/4 unconscious, and all this busted nose, blood was going back and he was gurgling and carrying on. The first aid bloke was leaning over him saying, blow your nose, mate, blow your nose, mate. And all Freddie goes, ooh. And he wasn't kneeling on his chest or anything, he was just a real crook. And the big sergeant of the police said to the first aider, "Oh, look at that." And he leaned over Freddie, right over, and he said, blow your bloody nose. And Freddie went, and the big cop stood up and said, here, look after the boss, and he had blood. Anyway, that night we got the drawings come up, and Pro, with his marvellous sense of humour, has got Freddie standing there with a spear and looking like some sort of an African native, and he's got a clutch lever through his nose with the clutch cable and the clutch hanging off it like a big medal of office. And that's Pro Hunt's sense of humour. He's someone.
All right, thanks very much, Al. And all the best. Put your hands together once again for Rick Barrow and Alan Streader.
Yeah, just a quick little story to wind up on. As Alan's passing on through the driving shores, I had this vision that unfortunately he had this very major accident. And unfortunately, things didn't go too well. Anyway, here he is. He's at the pearly gates and met St. Peter. And St. Peter said, now, Alan Streader, what did you do in your days on Earth? He said, well, I raced compact speed cars. He said, was you any good? He said, I was bloody good. Don't worry about that. And he said, okay. He said, look, you're in luck. He said, we've just put this gold platinum speedway track there. He said, just wander over on this cloud and we'll have a look at it together. Just at this time, this white compact goes flying past, number 34, and the red scarf's flying, a red helmet. And Streader looked in amazement and he said, Christ, he said, that's me. That's me just went past. And he said, no, he said, that's Jesus Christ. And he said, in all his life, he's wanted to be like Alan Streader.
Thank you, Rob, for those words of wisdom. Just before I go, there's one other person that I neglected to thank, very remiss of me, and I must thank Ron Sheaves, who put together the video for us tonight. We had a night the other week where we watched this collation that was put together and ran for about 2 hours, and we didn't really want to subject you to a couple of hours of that, so we had it reduced to a thumbnail sketch, if you like. But thanks very much, Ron.